Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining the Machine Learning Integrity Conference. My name is Kojin, and I'm a co-founder here at Robust Intelligence, and I'll be the host for this panel on scaling data science organizations. Developing and maintaining even a single production-ready model is hard, but scaling that to tens, hundreds, or even thousands is even harder. In this panel, we'll be discussing effective strategies to scale ML for organizations that deal with deploying a large number of models and how to assure the integrity of your models across your organization. We'll hear from 6 fantastic industry leaders in the space with experience developing and managing many models. With that, thank you everyone for joining us today. It's such a pleasure to have data science leaders from such diverse industries and backgrounds. To start out, I'd love to start out with a quick round of intros. To all panelists, would you be able to quickly introduce yourself and briefly tell us where you are using machine learning today? Let's start with Xuerui.
Hi everyone, I'm Xuerui. I'm currently working on pricing and incentive at Uber. My team focuses on enabling Uber's growth, improving the profitability, and increasing the engagement of user with Uber's platform. Of course, always machine learning. You might get a coupon from Uber saying, okay, 10% off for next week, or see a trip from home to work is $15 in the Uber's app. All this kind of thing are powered by my team.
Jing.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jing Huang. I'm a senior director of engineering. I lead the machine learning engineering team at Momentive, formerly as SurveyMonkey. So we are the survey tool used to collect information from people you want to hear from. We use ML for a variety of use cases across our product lines. From the beginning of the journey, we help our user to create better questions, ask better questions so they can get more relevant information for the questions they want to ask. And we also use ML to help you analyze the responses our users get. And we also use ML to help fight abuse prevention on our platform. It's a wide range of use cases. That's what I will say. And we are actually a believer in how data can make a difference and how ML can be a big game changer.
Thank you.
Hello all. My name is Ram. I work at Equinix. I'm a senior principal data scientist, and I lead the operations surrounding revenue operations at Equinix, where we have a data science model supporting sales organization, marketing, commercial operations like churn, pricing, as well as customer experience teams, voice of the customer, and so forth. Apart from that, we have other models running. I lead these 4 initiatives. Thank you.
Rosa?
Hi, everyone. I'm a director of engineering at Reddit. Of course, I focus, like everyone else here, in ML. And I do it at 2 levels. One is enabling the ML infrastructure that allows us to serve models for sure at the scale of millions of daily active users at Reddit. And then we focus also, my teams also focus in the research and development of AI and ML algorithms for recommendations, search, and content understanding. So anything that you see around, the group that while focuses on these recommendations, you see a feed, you're going to see content that is recommended to the user. We learn from the signals of those users what is interesting to them. That's one of the lines of the mandates of the group that I work with. Also, we work in enabling these foundational NLP, computer vision technologies that allows safety, moderation, even ads, sharing infrastructure, and foundational models.
Thank you. Rohin?
My name is Rohin Bansal. I'm a director at TELUS in data governance and data enablement. My area of practice or expertise is more on the compliance side. I know we have some people in compliance in the audience, but to create automation around privacy and security reviews as quickly as possible to actually speed up data initiatives being launched at TELUS. So my team's specifically looking at how to build a logic model on automating privacy and security reviews. Right now, it's a very manual, costly process based on the brain power in a room to review a data initiative. So we're looking at leading ML and automation in this respect to improve compliance and to build trust and trustworthiness with our clients. Thank you so much.
I'm Dan Friedman. I'm VP of Data Science at Expedia. I manage about 60 machine learning professionals in the areas of, I call it marketing science. And so we are responsible for pricing. So for example, we'll do small discounts here and there using machine learning models based on elasticities and that type of logic. Also performance marketing. And so we will, if you're familiar with Google Ads or Search Compare, we spend about $2 billion a year on clicks. And those clicks are spent $1 or 50 cents at a time. And all those prices come out of auctions. And so we have very complicated bidding models that go into power that. And we also do a lot in the area of capital allocation. So looking at all of the possible channels and the things that we can do, how much should we be doing discounting? How much should we do on performance ad? How much should we do on TV and those type of things? In the past, I've also run kind of the machine learning around our search system. Expedia's got maybe 200 or so ML scientists, and we have an awful lot of projects. And so I think we feel the pain as much as a lot of other big companies.
Thank you everyone for the great intros. As an AI startup founder, I always find it very fascinating to learn about the diverse set of ML applications, and I think we have like coupon pricing, and marketing, sales, security, compliance. Sounds like there are so many diverse model applications, even within the single organizations, and also just looking at the whole industry. So it sounds like, and you also have very big business serving millions of users or thousands of business customers, and you're serving them with tens or even hundreds of models, which leads to the question of, I'd imagine that there are a lot of challenges you're facing as well when you're trying to scale your team, scale the number of models. Dan mentioned a lot of the pains. So I'm actually, maybe we can start off from Dan. Like, tell us about some of the pains that you're facing, challenges you're facing, potential risks you foresee as you're scaling up your data science models and teams. Dan, I think you're muted.
Sorry about that. There are a lot of things that we worry about, but I think some that we feel because we're a big company, we have a lot of projects. I think we do a lot of our hiring out of grad schools. Like, we'll hire a lot of PhDs in ML or computer science, and a lot of these people, they're very smart. They have a lot of current information and skills, but they don't yet have a lot of experience working. And some of what you do in jobs where you're building production models, you don't really learn in school. You learn by doing it. And if you've got 5 people or 8 people, you can kind of manage that without a tool, right? Without standards. Because everyone knows each other, and there's you can ensure that the senior person tells the junior person what they're supposed to do. But when you've got 60 people or 150 people and a lot of projects, and there aren't always a lot of people on each project, you can't always rely on that happening. And so you have to come up with some sort of standardization to ensure that the right things start to happen, or not start to happen, but the right things happen consistently. And I think that's, when I started at Expedia, there were 3 ML people, and we kind of just grew up. And so I've been through a lot of these growing pains. And when you start to become a bigger org, you got to figure some of this stuff out. And that's actually how I found robust intelligence.
Oh, thank you. Yes, and I think the standardization we've been talking about this for multiple years, and also it's been a theme of our conference today. I think in almost all panels, the keyword standardization popped up a lot. I'm curious to hear from other speakers. Maybe this is a similar pain that you face, or there might be other pains. I actually want to start maybe with Rosa, Ram, Jing, and Xuerui, and then Rohin. I want to come back to you to talk about what that means from like a compliance and governance perspective.
So I can start thinking that I relate a lot with the problems, the pains that Dan was related. To give you a little bit of the framework, I have been doing this job of scaling ML teams for a while now, right? At Reddit, we have multiplied by 5 the ML team, and we are now close to 80 people in that particular side of ML with the mandate of working for product. There are more ML happening at Reddit. But there are 2 things I want to say. Before I enter in all these pains, I think it's very important to understand the company you are. Because every time I have done this job, the context of what is the user problem, the user value that you are creating, or the business value, changes the way you think about all these things. At Reddit, we have an approach, particularly in how we deliver ML, that is based on the process of layered safety, right? And so we have we have a platform in which we have these great moderators that are able to, on top of the automation that we have, and I'm sure that Rohin will talk a lot about that, we have this human component that defines our platform and how our communities, our subreddits are done. So this is an important context when you start thinking of scaling. The scaling is typically a plan of 2 to 3, 5 years. And even if you start really, really fast, you have to have this context of what are the problems and the tools that you have outside ML. And I think that's where I think this behavioral richness of people interacting with content, saying, I like this, I don't like this, I might vote, I don't vote, we have rules, it changed the game of how I would do that when I was in other companies, right? So that's the first point. What is the business context that you are facing? The second is, I think of ML that is production grade. Everything is for industry grade for production modeling. I think the most important thing is to think about talent. I think Dan was mentioning, you start maybe with this type of people that have a lot of what I call state-of-the-art knowledge, but not necessarily experience. How we combine our talent density. That's super important. How we think of pairing infrastructure engineers with data scientists and with software engineers and with research engineers. So that's a lot of the composition of how we scale this last year Reddit. So that's one part. The other part, I think, is really important to think of, and it connects with my first point. What is the user focus of your teams? And meaning by that, I work for Reddit. This is a social media platform. So user and the value that we deliver to the user is fundamental to our business and how we think of ML, right? And the third point, I think, is how we create these interactions between organizational interactions, or how we allow teams that are focused on serving the ML that are in the hot path compared to those that are training, experimenting, doing the behavioral analysis. I'm sure that Ram will talk a lot about that. And also how we think of composing this with the business and product-oriented groups. I think with that, you start having a plan. And then the pain you're going to suffer, but I'm sure Jing and others are going to talk about this.
Thank you. I'm going to go next.
Okay. So Equinix, some of you may know, it's a B2B organization. So it brings in very different challenges when compared to several other use cases. I think I second Rosa on the point of bringing value. That's critical. You can build 10 models to 20,000 models, doesn't matter. What really matters to the end, to the end balance sheet is how much value are we bringing. The value, this serves two purposes. One, that the data science team members, the ML engineers, they stay inspired. It's one thing to hire great talent, but another thing to keep them inspired, to keep them motivated. And how do they enable doing it? They should know, doesn't matter if it's 3 people or 200 people, they all should know that what they are contributing, the hours that they are spending is bringing in value and bringing in change. I think as we scale, the human component of it, that's something that I see is a substantial challenge for all the leaders to keep track of. And how do we bring that? How do we ensure that that is happening? That's critical. And the other end are the stakeholders. It could be users in the B2C environment or individual team members in our B2B environment. All these stakeholders need to stay engaged and inspired and ensure that there is some value here, and how do we do that? And these are critical challenges. We only have tens of models, but we want to ensure that we are culling models that do not seem to bring value or do not have an engaging stakeholder as soon as possible. So we run 2x the number of POCs in a given year, but only products that bring value continue to get the funding. And that's something that we are very clear about. And this naturally aligns with the hiring strategy and retention policies and so forth. And this is very critical in my opinion. Bringing value, measuring value, keeping folks inspired and engaged.
Thank you.
Great. I think it's really great to hear our fellow here share some similar challenge that we're all facing. I think hiring, securing the talent, it's probably one of the most shared challenge we have in this industry and this domain. One thing I like to share more on how we scale our ML more from like a platform perspective. I think one thing what we talked about, how important the business need is, how diverse the use cases can be, right? For us, when we initially started, ML ops was not as popular as it is today. Like the understanding of building ML models into production has been very challenging, like 5 years ago or so. A lot of tools that's available today was not mature at the time. So understand the stage of your company was very critical, understand the limitation and where is the bottleneck that you are actually going after, right? To be able to scale to the level that you need to deliver the business value was very important. And over the time, we've seen the past couple of years, especially, I think the number of tools like Ryan actually maturing and helping. The more challenging we're seeing on the side will be just like, hey, can we understand each company's unique data pattern, right? In a way, we're talking about ML, it's there's a general problems we're all trying to solve with scalability when we wanted to put more and more model into production for different use cases. But at the same time, there is the unique, every business is unique, every problem is unique. Down to ML, it's really just your data patterns are very different. How can we scale in a way? I think a lot of practices where we are adopting with the general software development that we talk about DevOps to be applied to data scientists. We talk about standards here, right? All those things are very, very important. But just back to the foundation. Whoever looking at this problem will be understand where you are, where your team is, where the company is, where the true bottleneck for you. I think the answer will be different, depends on where we are. So hopefully, like Rosa was sharing, I think everyone will find a way out of this, and we have a lot more tools available today.
Oh, thank you. Xuerui.
Was it me now? Sorry.
Yes, go for it. Yes.
Awesome. Going back to the question, Kojin, on challenges, for me, I have a team of very smart compliance professionals that you need to do a lot of change management. If you've designed a really strong model that makes sense and you're trying to roll it out enterprise-wide, on my side, there's many compliance professionals that need to buy in to the model. When we find issues, I'm the first point of contact for a complaint. This isn't working how I designed it. It's not working. Can we do something else? So for us, it was coming out with a strong change management plan, automating how we do changes to the model as well through a streamlined process, and getting buy-in at all different levels. So at TELUS, we have 310 plus data stewards. Those are our spokes in our hub and spoke model, getting their buy-in as users of our model, and showing KPIs, right, of how the model's working. That was a great way of overcoming challenges, to show that, hey, your standard compliance review takes 8 weeks. With our model, it can be done in 2 weeks. And showing those stats, right? So I think that's our way of sort of overcoming a lot of the challenges, and getting the buy-in at all sort of different stages.
Xuerui, do you want to go and share your challenges as well?
Sure. I definitely agree with the panel. Standardization and some process to enable some kind of automation is definitely a way to go. But also we can step back a little bit, like, why we have so many models, right? I mean, putting the model iteration aside, sometimes we have many models because we believe the goal or the objective function is different, or the data is different. I mean, Uber, for my job, is essentially many local marketplace consisting of drivers, riders, restaurant, etc. Uber not only has a lot of ML models, but also have many models of the same type. Like Uber have probably like 700 market operator around like 10,000 cities. I mean, for a given component like predicting a rider request probability, we used to have a model for each marketplace, essentially same kind of model. I mean, today in many areas we still do. How to manage this kind of many model in daily operation is definitely a huge challenge. How to iterate, how to monitor, how to remedy when the model fail. All complicated by the model number. I mean, we can do some model innovation to handle the pain as well, in addition to the standardization. I mean, we always talk about big data, for example, but in reality, a lot of engineering challenges coming from data sparsity. How to expedite a code start, like a problem for a new city, how to balance the generalization of small market while taking advantage of memorization of larger market. All good, like modern challenge as well.
Thank you. And thanks everyone for sharing the challenges you're facing. At a high level, I kind of saw two big themes. One is aligning your kind of machine learning objectives with the user context, the business context. And there's sometimes a gap between the people you've hired or training to make sure that these things are kind of established within your organization. And another keyword was around standardization, creating the infra and the culture and kind of, for example, compliance work streams that would ensure some kind of standardization for model management. And with the rest of the session, I wanted to address these two topics and now think about how we want to crack these problems. So I want to start with the business context side. So Ram, Rosa, and Dan, I think you mentioned that. I think the common theme is that, for example, as Dan said, when you hire data scientists, right, let's say out of PhD or undergrad, they might be very good at solving algorithmic problems or optimizing for accuracy AUC, but they might not necessarily be experts in thinking about what are the values for users, what are the risks for these businesses. And so how have you been working with your team to try to establish that kind of mindset? Ram, do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. One of the things that typically come from newbies or early career folks is about, hey, I can do this complex model. I did this during my course in Coursera or wherever, or during my academic work. It will take, let's say, several months or several weeks of effort to do that. That's one way they very, very interested in solving. They put in the hours, everything is great. But the engagement with the stakeholder or identifying the value, that's slightly tricky. So how do they engage? And that gets to be trickier. So the intention that, okay, we can start off with a simpler model, whatever that simpler model for that specific problem be, and have a balance between continuous innovation and testing and identifying value. That sort of mindset is very, very helpful. And engaging with a stakeholder in terms of, hey, what are the success criteria? What do you want? What do you wish to see? And provide byproducts along the way, not just your end machine learning model outcome, but hey, well, these are the analysis that we found. This seems to be interesting. How else can you use this data? This kind of engagement can help the end user stay very engaged in the whole process. And that also provides motivation again to the individual members to say, hey, that's interesting. I'm glad that this person is thinking in a very different perspective. I've never really interacted with somebody who does not do machine learning for a living, but he's been hands-on in his work, sales, marketing, whatever, or for 20 plus years. How does this person think? That's kind of inspiration on either sides, provides this kind of beautiful bonding and engagement between the two that I have seen to be inspiring. And a game-changing perspective that provides a game-changing perspective to the individual folks. And I continue to emphasize on simplicity to begin with, success and engagement, and then add underlying more complex layers as we go through the process. And that's something that we have seen work successfully. But then bringing this to scale, ensuring that every member who is joining, every group that's joining, also aligned to this kind of thought process, that could be challenging, but definitely some inspiring stories will help.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ram. I totally align with what Ram was mentioning, but I would like also to go back to what Jing said, and is the importance of thinking of from the get-go in your infrastructure, how you're going to scale. You have to have this plan from the get-go, even if you start small, right? And I can tell you, I can see an explosive growth on our models, but I'm much more interested in having my very tight SLAs to go from the get-go, to have a platform. But I think we use a lot, or I have been using a lot, the playbook of platforms. Why platforms? We have, for example, already we have, in my teams, we have two types of platforms. The ML platform that you will have the ML ops, the end-to-end lifecycle management of models, but also we have a ranking ML platform, because you need to also to think of how you are going to deliver those recommendations, because that's one of our main mandates and focus in my teams, right? The thing I want to say is that if you have a platform playbook, an actual platform playbook, and you think of ML developers, data scientists as people who can operate on top of that platform, that they can also, you can remove what I call the cognitive leakage, because it's impossible to have someone that knows everything. You have to equip your team with the tools and pair their expertise to what you need in what I call the ML factory, right? And the ML factory includes the infrastructure, includes the expert knowledge, includes this research and innovation, this catching up with the state of the art constantly. Even if people sometimes in product you're not going to think of those things, you are, as an ML leader, are responsible for that. The other thing is look at work, making sure that you have these teams, that the ML application teams, the data scientists, really close to a hopefully very vibrant product organization or business organization, depending on which is that mandate that your team has, right? But for me, the infrastructure that Jing was mentioning, look, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, it was very difficult. But today is a must. It's something that you can do, and you should think, even if you have only 10 data scientists or machine learning engineers, you owe that to them. And then you will scale without way less, fewer pains, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, thanks, Rosa. That's great. To the question, Kojin, you're asking, right? I think I look at onboarding a data science team in two aspects. The reason we say that different from traditional software, like we hire our junior software engineer out of school as well. Why is that easier than hiring a right out of school data scientist or someone, right? Data science team are a lot more diverse. You know, we hire them from a lot more different background. We actually love it, right? I think that's one of the key value of building a data science team that's diverse from the background. They can bring a ton of value than we're hiring like a straight same data science or CS background. We actually love people from different backgrounds so that they look into the problem into different lengths. But that does introduce challenges with onboarding them because they were not practiced in the same standards, right? I think that's where the thinking of bringing DevOps or the platform or the practices the industry has been putting into practice into more general software development into ML projects, right? Into your data science practices, all the way from your process, like Spring, Agile, how a data science team can be more efficient, to their tooling, right? You do the sharing. I think there are a lot of tools available today to help the data science team work just more efficient. And a lot of practices we used to be more software focused, actually apply data-driven focused tweaks to the tools to help the data science team.
Interesting. Dan, I'd love to hear your thoughts on how you've been working with the PhD data scientists.
Yeah, I think what Jing and Rosa have been saying about platform is kind of resonates with me. And I think that if you want to be serious about machine learning and make it part of your business, in 2022, you have to have a platform. I don't exactly know what that platform is because it's not 100% standardized. I don't think there's an end-to-end vendor today that provides a good one. But like the data, the ML people, it's a lot of work just figuring out what model to build and then building it. To also have to do kind of full stack design and know all of this fancy programming, that's over and above. And I can tell you one of the things that was a painful lesson for me was, when we were starting and we were small, people were responsible for their algos, and they would maybe over monitor them. But when you grow to a big enough stage, you can't do that anymore. But we would get bugs, like sometimes, like if you're reading from a CSV file, one of the commas could be missing, and that shifts all of the columns to the left, right? And so you can get really weird values in that situation. You can sometimes you're expecting dollars and you get pesos. Like there are a lot of something, the request could be malformed, right? There's all these things, and like someone who's just coming in, who's never worked before, doesn't know a lot, hasn't thought about systems engineering. They don't know what can go wrong. They're just not prepared for that. And so one of the things that I did that kind of paid off was I brought in a kind of an experienced engineer, and we just taught everyone how to write unit tests. And so like every algo has to pass a unit test before it gets deployed. And like I think picking up the best practices from just like a regular old engineering team, that is one thing that we're still working on it, but it's one thing that has helped.
That makes a lot of sense, and sounds like unit testing should be a big part of the platform that people should be considering. One of the things that I was thinking about when everyone mentioned platform, it reminded me of what Rohin said about hub and spokes. In some sense, platform is kind of like the hub that is being delivered to spokes, the data scientists. So Rohin, maybe tell us a little bit about what you meant by hub and spokes, and how the platform idea kind of relates to the org structure.
No, I love the idea of hub and spoke. So identifying who your spokes are, how do you support those spokes? So your data scientists, how do you support them in an engagement model, right? The hub, right? Are you doing it through various forums, channels, presentations? Is there a Quora? Is there job aids? How do you really support those spokes to have excellent engagement on an ongoing basis? I know some of my members of my team are on this call as well, who really do excellent work to support the spokes. And the spokes support other spokes to develop even stronger spokes, right? So we have this role called a data steward. It can be an architect, data architect. It can be a business team member, but we are offering internal and external training opportunities. So if a business team member wants to learn how to do basic architecture, they have those opportunities. If our architects want to learn how to translate architecture design into business requirements, we offer that training. And not only that, we want to take it one step further by offering external training opportunities so that you go through a progression. As Dan was saying, right, to build that experience, you need those sort of opportunities to take some chances and some risks to learn a new skill, right? To pilot on certain projects, right? So the hub and spoke model generally works well, and it's been well received overall.
Are other organizations from the panelists, are you following kind of similar org structure, or are there kind of other ways of organizing the team that you've been seeing a lot of success on? Is everyone having spokes, or there's some other things that you're trying?
Yeah. I think I would mention that because this is important. How I was, you can architect many things, right? But one organization or how the organization is going to evolve has to be part of how you are thinking of why a platform, for example, right?
Yeah.
So you think of a platform and you think of the end users. I think always, how can I make easier for a developer, an ML developer, not to miss the important things, right? And it's absolutely cool. Once you have that idea, okay, it makes sense to me to have enough adoption challenges. I have enough acceleration and a large code base that can be shared and reused and accelerate the business. When you have that, that's not enough. You're going to have also to think about other two things that are in the middle, up and down, upstream and downstream. One of the things that I think is incredibly important is to include rigor about your SLAs, the typical things that you will look, latency, availability, how you pair that with quality of your models. That's one. We have SLOs that are all about quality. Are we degrading our feeds because we are indexing in a way that is wrong when we are setting our recommendation? For example, right? Are we not retraining enough and our model drift, our instance to the performance of the model starts to deteriorate, right? Are we, so you equip this with the core production systems. This is super important. ML doesn't happen in a vacuum. You have a core infrastructure that is not ML, driven, but it has the security, the DevOps, the standards of deployment, and also have the site reliability engineering. Think of that, but for ML model quality. And the activity of putting all these great machine that maybe you have built, this platform, this core infrastructure, how that is applied in this case, for me, it's a product, right? And I think the idea of understanding the how we streamline those teams. There is it's a book that I will recommend to everyone. I didn't write it, so I'm not doing any self-promotion. It's called Team Topologies, and you can think really well how to orchestrate enablement teams, platform teams, expert teams, and then also what I call the product teams. And if you start thinking of how I can reduce handoffs, I have been in organizations that were very R&D inclined, so everything was a linear dependency. It's terrible. You want to scale and deliver fast value, right? So that requires to think about how you are close and pairing your ML and data scientists with user experts. And that is not only data science, it's not only models. I think Rohin is talking about something super important, that is to talk about compliance, legal, user researchers. So how you create these pods of what I call that are the unit of delivery of value for your use case, right? In this case, it's for us, it's user value, right? So what I think is you have to have a big map and think about platform, core infrastructure, enablement, streamline for fast delivery.
And I know we're almost at time. I think this is important because we're talking about ML platform. Just wanted to add on, ML platform is not one piece of software. I just want to make sure whoever is listening to this actually have that, put that thoughts into mind. When you look at ML platform, understand at least there are 3 different stages, right? ML serving, your data platform, and how the tools are supporting your data science workflow. At least separate them and look at where you are in your organization, and it will help you clarify how you make your choice of the tools or solve the problem.
No, that makes sense. I think this topic of how to structure your organization to standardize model management and also how to align platforms, I feel like we can talk about that for hours. But sadly, we're almost out of time. So maybe before we end, I think we got some great organizational tips from Rosa and Jing. Xuerui, Ram, Rohin, and Dan, would you mind sharing a little bit about any tips that you have, like 2-3 sentences for the audience in terms of scaling up data science organizations and infra? Xuerui, you want to start?
Sure. I'm a deep believer that simplicity usually lead to better scalability. I mean, standardization at the platform level or some like, ML ops process or such example. I mean, another angle to achieve simplicity is to reduce the number of models while achieving equal or better performance. Actually, in my team, I mean, we have a dedicated group focusing on this aspect. I hope people in the ML community can really pay a little attention to that. Sometimes you don't need that many models.
Got it. Thank you. Great advice. Ram?
Identifying ways to measure value and identifying improved success metrics. I think that's one. And then including explainability and integrity checks as part of every model performance outcome could be another critical measure. I would leave with these 2 tips.
Thank you. Rohin?
On the compliance side, managing expectations of a wide, diverse stakeholder group, right? And one thing I learned is really hone in on strategic storytelling. Why does your model work? Why is it scalable? And can you explain the model to a non-technical leader? So once you, in the art of storytelling and presentations, I know we have maybe 10 seconds left, but can you explain your model to a non-technical leader? You will win the technical leader and the non-technical leader at the same time. So that really helps you when you're getting that organizational buy-in. So I think that would be my tidbit of advice. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. We need your last words of wisdom.
Just to get everyone. If we're talking about like how do you organize an ML team, I think you can make a real strong case for having things related to infrastructure centralized, because a lot of where the power is making sure that everyone's using the same platform, the same infrastructure, they're doing it the same way, they apply the standards where they're supposed to be applied. But then when you're off building apps, I think there's a trade-off. Like when you're centralized, well, if you've got a lot of ML people together, some of them like to talk and they like to talk about their work, and you get some of the collaboration. And every once in a while, you see a problem that is polymorphic to another one, you can use the same solution. But sometimes when you're centralized, you're a little far away from where the action is, and you can get far away from like the business problem. And so sometimes you want to be a little closer to the people who are driving the requirements, because maybe there's something that you missed, and maybe you can do a little better job if you start living their life. And so for that, I think you just have to take it as it comes and make use your intelligence to make the right decision.
Makes sense. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Xuerui, Jing, Ram, Rosa, Rohin, and Dan for joining us. It's such a rare opportunity to have data science leaders from these amazing companies joining here, exchanging ideas. I definitely heard a couple of keywords that we can all take home and start implementing. So thank you, everyone, and thank you all the panelists for joining us at this ML Integrity Conference and the Scale panel.